Well, this is Jay Smith, Dr. Jay Smith. I'm in Toronto now, in Canada, and I'm at a very prestigious seminary, Tyndale Seminary. We're here in Tyndale Seminary, which is the largest seminary, isn't it, here in Canada?
Yeah, by far. No one close to us.
So about 800 undergraduate and 800 graduate students.
Something like that.
And you teach. This is Dr. James Beverley. Dr. James Beverley, we've been good friends for
quite a few years.
Too many years, hasn't it?
And we're getting old. We're both 65.
We're exactly 65. You just turned 65 2 days ago. So we have been friends for quite a few years. But we have, the reason why we're friends, just explain why. What is it you do?
Well, I teach, I've been a professor 40 years, 30 years here at Tyndale, and I specialize in the study of world and new religions. So long ago I heard about Jay's work with Muslims, and I met him and then been with him in Speaker's Corner, and so that was the connection. I want to learn a lot about Islam from you.
And you have me here at Tyndale now.
Yeah, so we're teaching today together Islam. In the class.
But you teach much more than Islam. What are some other faiths that you teach about?
I study on world and new religions, so I've written books on Mormonism, 3 on Islam, Pentecostalism. One of my books, the biggest one, 800 pages, covers all the religions of the world and hundreds of small religions.
Okay. I call you a heresy hunter.
Yeah, I'm a truth defender.
Truth defender, you prefer that term.
But, you know, I was hired when I was 24, and I was told to teach a course about religions, and then I fell in love with the subject.
So how many years have you been doing this?
Well, I've been studying religion seriously for 45 years.
45 years.
45, 46.
So, in your 20s, you started this, and you haven't stopped.
I did an undergraduate degree in philosophy, then I did 2 theology degrees, and then I did a doctorate in theology.
Now, let me ask you the million-dollar question. After having studied all these cults, these religions, these other faiths, why is it that you believe Christianity is the true faith?
The best reason is Jesus.
Okay.
He's the reason. There's no one like him. Now, I'll admit, Jay, when I first started studying in detail about Islam, I had heard Muhammad was the greatest. So, you know, just a teeny little bit nervous. What if I find out he's the greatest, you know?
And have you found out that he is?
No. Well, Jesus is the greatest, not Muhammad.
Give me some examples. Why is Jesus the greatest?
Sinless. He's also compassionate, gentle, gracious. He's wise. He's courageous. He lives the Sermon on the Mount.
In fact, nobody really can find any error with him.
Right.
Have you known anybody? In fact, I do this a lot. I go and at Speaker's Corner, I say, can you find one thing wrong with Jesus?
Well, you know, Jesus is, every religion uses him. Here's a tip. If you start your own religion, you've got to say Jesus is on your side.
Okay.
Even if he isn't, you've got to say it to help sales.
And that's not just being politically correct. People really believe that.
Oh, yeah. Like I was taught by a famous atheist who said Jesus is the most charismatic person who's ever lived. The Dalai Lama said he's not worthy to be compared to Jesus.
You've talked to the Dalai Lama?
Yeah, I interviewed him in 2000 for about an hour. He said, I'm not worthy. Well, he said to the New York Times, I'm not worthy to be compared to Jesus.
And he was not just saying that for political reasons.
No, because he's the top Buddhist in the world, the most famous. He's supposed to be a sinless, enlightened figure, but he admits he struggles with
Tibetan. Now, you say this atheist. What atheist are you referring to?
Anthony Flew, who was the Richard Dawkins of 30 years ago.
So explain exactly what
Flew was raised Christian, became an atheist in the days of C.S. Lewis at Oxford, and then he became an atheist, became a famous philosopher. I studied with him, and he admitted to me and my brother in an interview that Jesus was the greatest figure in history. I actually told him, Professor Flew, if he's the greatest, you know, maybe you should follow him. Became a believer in God, but he couldn't take the step to Jesus, sadly. Although he thought he was great.
So Jesus is the answer you would give anybody.
Yes.
And Jesus is the reason why most people come to Christ.
You don't want to tell people that the church is the best because maybe they'll end up in a terrible church. So if you mention Jesus, then Jesus is the Savior and Lord. He's the one that we depend on. Humans fail, but not the Son of God.
You know, Muslims come up to me all the time, Jim, and they say, you know, we love Jesus. Why don't you love Muhammad? And I said, exactly.
Well,
that's the point.
You know what? When I read in detail about Muhammad, I was shocked by some of the nasty stories about him.
Especially when you go to his biography.
Oh, yeah.
Ibn Hisham, when you read
Yeah.
what he did to the Jews, what he did to women, what
Yeah.
he did to those who didn't support him.
People he tortured.
Yeah.
He allowed the death of a poet who criticized him.
Poetess.
Yeah, poetess.
Asma bin Marwan.
Yeah, he said it's no big deal that she died. It's as significant as two goats butting heads.
So,
this is the kind of stuff like it sort of blew my mind, and then I wondered, well, how come Muslims think he's so great? Well, those stories don't get circulated widely.
They don't, you're right. Whereas Jesus' stories do.
Yes,
And
also,
it stands to reason why Muslims love
Yeah.
Jesus so much. What's not to love about him?
So I can say this honestly, in 40 years as a professor studying hundreds of groups, I've never been tempted in the least to go to another faith. I prefer Jesus is greater than Buddha, greater than Mohammed, greater than Krishna. What I tell people is, to follow somebody, you should find out they exist. Well, the God of Hinduism, Krishna, never existed. Okay? And then if they exist, you should find out if we have accurate records. We don't have accurate records about Muhammad or Krishna.
Some people even would suggest that he did not exist.
Right.
I don't hold that, and you don't hold that.
Right.
But certainly the record we have about him, the historical record, is the only record we have about him is 200 years after the fact.
Right.
Not
The
very
other thing is, if you believe those records, you run into a third problem. Whoever you follow should exist. The reports have to be reliable, and then the third thing you ask is this person great?
There you go.
So
is
Jesus,
he relevant for today?
Who?
Muhammad.
No, because he's not a great figure.
But Jesus is.
Yeah, Muhammad's not like totally bad, totally evil. He did nice things every now and then.
Can you tell me some?
Let's see.
Get your worry rag out.
I think he was sometimes nice to children.
The only one I've ever heard Muslims is that one that he stopped infanticide.
Okay.
Girls being
Yeah, so he's not totally off, but I think there's no comparison.
No, there's no comparison. So it really comes to Jesus, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Oh, this is great.
And Jesus has sent Jesus. You may not be able to figure everything out, but you can see this: Jesus is the greatest. Follow him. I asked the Dalai Lama once. You say Jesus is the highly enlightened master and the truth. Well, he must have taught the truth if he's truly enlightened. And I was hoping the Dalai Lama would become a believer in Jesus fully. And he said Jesus was allowed to not tell the truth because they couldn't handle it. So that I was shocked that he said that. But what else can he say? I was hoping he'd say, I should become a follower of Jesus and believe in him as a savior. And I said to the Dalai Lama, if Jesus is the truth, then God exists. A lot of Buddhists don't believe that. And Jesus is the Son of God and Savior of the world. There you go.
There you go.
So after 40 years, that's my message.
God bless you. Hey, this has been terrific.
Hey, thanks, Jay, for being at Tyndale.
You really come back to the same conclusion we've all come back to, and I hope you've come to this conclusion. It doesn't go any further than Jesus.
Right.
God bless you. This is Jay and Jim here in Tyndale, over and out.
Right.
Hi, I'm so glad you've now seen this great interview with Dr. James Beverley, a good friend who's been, goodness, we've gone back so many years, as we said in the video. Now, he has written myriads of books on religion and basically comparing religions back and forth. His books have been published by Castle Quay Books or Castle Key Books, depending on how you pronounce that word, in Canada. And they have decided, because of this video, that they would like to offer you a special offering, those of you who are watching this, a 25% discount on any of his books. Let me just highlight two of them. One of them you'll see here on the screen, which is entitled Getting Jesus Right by Dr. James A. Beverley and Craig Evans. It was published in 2015, and it's around 350 pages. And you'll get it for 25% off the price. Now, the blurb on the back says this: is it possible that Muslims are wrong about Jesus and various tenets of Islam? Is the famous Muslim writer Reza Aslan mistaken in his portrayal of Jesus of Nazareth and apologetics for Islam? Professor James Beverley and Professor Craig Evans take an in-depth look at subjects at the core of the Muslim-Christian divide. Number one, the reliability of the New Testament Gospels and the Quran. So it does a comparative of those two. Number two, what we can really know about Jesus and the Prophet Muhammad. And importantly, they also example, number three, the implications of traditional Islamic faith on the status of women, jihad, and terrorism. So that's all in this book that I have here pictured in front of you. A second book is a little bit older, came out in 2007. That's called The Counterfeit Code, which is a rebuttal to the Da Vinci Code. And let me put a blurb put out by Dr. Gary Habermas, who supports this book. He says, it seems that every few years another non-traditional book about Jesus appears, one that digresses from what is clearly known as history. The latest furore over the novel The Da Vinci Code. Rather than simply hearing disclaimers, Christians need to be given strong reasons for their disagreement. Professor Beverley specializes in the study of modern religious beliefs and the occult. His Counterfeit Code is a clear answer to Dan Brown's false theories about Jesus, Mary Magdalene, the Gospels, and secret societies, pointing out Brown's historical and logical errors. So these books and others that he has written are for you for 25% off. Now to do that, what you need to do is you will see now and I've had it at the bottom of the screen. This is the website you need to go to. Go to Castle Quay or Castle Key Books. Put in Getting Jesus Right and put in the Counterfeit Code or whatever books you would like to get from Dr. James Beverley. And then go to the checkout. Once you get to the checkout, as you're going through that, there will be a discount code. And there's a little box for it. Put in that discount code CQB. Okay, that's the discount code. CQB. That's all you need, and they'll give you 25% off on whatever you order. Well, I want to thank Dr. James Beverley and also Castle Quay for their discount. This is great that those of us who are watching and learning not only from him, but also how to engage with Muslims can use this material. And I hope you get these books for your library. Okay, this is Jay. Over and out.